The broadcast is live. Here we go.
Insert clickbait title here. We'll make it interactive tonight. So
we're on CD-ROM, an interactive computer application.
I want to be interested to see if we got anybody on here because we're not speculating and we're not trendy and we don't slab. And we actually read. I've had a couple channels and they made it sort of. I wouldn't maybe not respectively, but not disrespective. You get what I'm saying? But apparently, I'm now in the category of comic book people who are considered readers. Did you know this was? Yes.
It's like
that reminds me of my friend Bunch was like a magnet for weirdos and weird stuff on the New York City subways.
Yeah.
And so he was riding the subways one night and reading his book on the way home. And some other guy was there with his girl trying to impress her. You could just tell the guy was acting big, trying to impress his girl. Then he looked over at my friend Bunch and went, "At least I don't read."
That's wild.
Like that. You got us a reader.
I remember when I was a kid, I was reading like Tales of the Fourth Grade Nothing and pretending I was understanding Elric. You know what I mean? I'm like, you know what I mean? Or at least I thought I did. I thought Elric was a pirate story when I read it when I was a kid, But but I remember having friends looking at me going, "You talk like you're writing a book," and I'm like, "Okay, I'll just pick it up for you there," But we got to get Comic Crack on here sometime. I don't think people realize how long Comic Crack's been around, and people need to,
he had a good video earlier today too.
Yeah, it popped on there for a few minutes. He'd gotten some stuff.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
But for years, some of us OG guys here on YouTube have kind of been talking about, these slab guys are really just doing trading cards. It's like a trading thing. Live and let live.
Right.
Have fun with it. And now it's like they turned it around without even knowing it. They're readers. He's a reader. He'll know what you're talking about. You can give him a real answer. Because I was watching some live show and they were talking about Swamp Thing. So I asked a question. Because the guy they had on there, he does the Alec Holland files, and he has the website Roots of Swamp Thing. But apparently, he made it into the Guinness Book of World Records for having the most Swamp Thing memorabilia. Different items, like 3,600 pieces. So I asked a few questions, and they were like, and they were real cool about it. Don't get me wrong, but they were just sort of. That's what I mean. They weren't disrespectful. It wasn't a slam. They were like, "Oh, Haller's a reader there, so when you answer him, he'll know what you're talking about." And I was like, I was sick. I had the bronchitis going, and I'm on the couch at night. And I'm just sitting here like I couldn't process this. It tripped me out where I didn't feel good. I'm like, a reader? But people don't read the comics? What? It's fucking Swamp Thing. If you want to read anything, that's the one,
So you have back in 1993.
Mm-hmm.
You have the secret to the anti-slab equation.
Comic Crack knows what I'm talking about. That was a real good story.
Yeah.
All right. Well, sometimes we pop up on here on the weekends and every blue moon. So, we'll let you know, man. Yeah. Honest, it'd be great to have you on, man.
And survived it.
I've ridden the subway in New York once and survived twice in Boston. Don't be hating.
Boston.
Holy smoke, Connor, excellent. Okay. All right. Is it the shirt he's talking about?
I guess.
Is that?
Yep.
See, when I see blue and Iron Maiden, I go seventh son of a seventh son. I don't know which one you got on.
This is just a soccer jersey is all it is.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually the Japanese colors soccer jersey.
Ah.
A lot of channels out there just collecting, unfortunately. Yeah.
I would say most of them these days are. It's amazing to me how many channels are out there just collecting.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's just a YouTube thing. Maybe it's just the way the YouTube, algorithms are blowing these days. But I don't, at least not across my path. There are a lot of channels that are about, the comics themselves and the content. There's just the same old guys I've had for years and years, and I don't think I've found any new guys who are about content, unless they're the guys who are known for this chat.
Right.
Like I said, I was sick when I watched that stream, but I'm pretty sure Gretzky was the one running it with the Roots of the Swamp Thing dude, Alec Holland. So he can comment and talk about it in the chat if you want. We'll plug it. But to me, it's like I'm the guy that sort of has paid attention to like trends and stuff over the years because I think things repeat. And I think we're in like when did Superman die? 1992, 93. I was actually working at a comic book shop, and that's where we're at. A lot of people coming in. And but the thing is it's the details that are different. You know what I mean? I don't know why this is happening. We can say it's the COVID. We can say it's the extra money, or there's no cons like there usually are. I mean, there's a lot of things we can say, but I think we're just there again. I think we're in that cycle of people coming in to invest, and a lot of people are spending they're reactionary and listening to some channels, and they're spending a lot of money. And these are the people that get burned in the long run. You know what I mean?
Oh. Did you hear that this week about that Fortnite comic that got hot?
Did they put a Batman in it or something?
Yes, it's a Batman Fortnite comic. But what they did is they put a code in the comic for like an extra skin or something. I don't even know what. So, of course, all the Fortnite teens wanted it and went to the comic shops looking for it. But, of course, then you can't find it.
Right.
I'm on the other end of this. I think that's cool. You actually get new people to get a book. I mean, they're totally not going to read the book. Somebody.
Well, I think that's cool 100%, but they couldn't actually get the comic was the problem. Because it's hard to serve an audience that never comes into your shop. So the comic shop owners had no idea that these Fortnite fans were going to be coming in and looking for that comic. And I'm sure they didn't order most of them didn't order a lot of them because Batman Fortnite isn't going to sell a lot to even Batman fans. So it like took shops by surprise, I'm told, which is makes sense. But it's just one of those things. I'm like, I wish they could have taken advantage of it more. I wish maybe
that'll drive a second printing.
Right, but I always said that about like back in the early to mid '90s when I played Magic the Gathering, and they came out with a Magic the Gathering comic, and they just once again came out with a Magic the Gathering comic, just like Boom Studios did like a month ago. And those, of course, were the days in the early '90s of everything being polybagged and having cards in. So to me, it would be a natural to have a Magic the Gathering comic polybagged with some, Magic the Gathering card, but they never did that, and they probably never will. But that would guarantee to sell a lot of comics to a lot of Magic the Gathering players who want the card, but they've just never done that, and I've never understood why. Well, probably understood they'd have to license the card, and that'd just be crazy. But they could just do like a card they normally have and do a new printing of it, and still it would sell some extra comics. It's like I never understood what the same thing that happened with Fortnite right now would have happened with the Magic the Gathering comic, but they've just never done it. And that's easier to plan for too, a card.
I'm sure there's been other promotions where that one comic was gone from the people who didn't collect it. Like my mind goes to Labyrinth miniseries because it wasn't comic book collectors or really movie people like the Muppets. It was David Bowie. So if you went to get that, you had to fight a Bowie fan. But I'm also the guy that bought Happy Meals to get certain toys over the years. I'm sure I've got my Inspector Gadget McDonald's toy from 1999 right in there in a box. So.
But McDonald's is what I'm saying is McDonald's is ready for that. McDonald's is always they got plenty of Happy Meals. They got plenty of Happy Meals and plenty of Happy Meals toys. They're waiting for Inspector. They're counting on Inspector Gadget fans showing up. Comic shops really didn't know about Fortnite fans. Didn't know Fortnite fans were going to be showing up.
I would take advantage of it. I would take advantage of it and like, okay, we're going to tie into Fortnite big time now. You know what I mean? Like keep coming in.
I hope they can do that. I really do, because that would be a good thing. I just don't know if they can. Just like Magic the Gathering, whoever's doing the Magic the Gathering comic has never been able to tie in with the actual game. That's crazy to me. I mean, they tell stories about. First of all, nobody plays Magic the Gathering for the backstory. Nobody. They have a huge backstory in Magic the Gathering of who all these cards are and who all these characters are. Nobody cares. People care about the cards themselves and how the cards work. That's what they care about. So throw a card into the Magic the Gathering comic and you'll sell 100,000 copies of it instead of 10,000. But I don't get it.
I don't know if I like being number 14. That's all I'm saying. No.
You want to be number 1? 62 Lefty Blues caught us. He's caught us. I guess it's been a while.
Top 5 at least, top 5.
I bet that DC did not warn any retailer that they were going to have a Fortnite promotion.
Probably.
Or
not.
if they did,
I'd say you're probably right.
Yeah, and if they did, they just said, "Oh, you guys might want to order this Batman Fortnite comic." Why?
Yeah.
Oh, I can tell it's a surprise.
Yeah. They said, I guarantee it definitely was not planned. They could have sold 4 times as many copies if they had planned it out.
I think it goes back to comics still having the stigma. They didn't think it was going to be a big deal because it's a comic.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I think happened.
Well, I think it also has to do with the fact that, everybody's been fired over at DC.
Oh,
so someone may have planned this, 8 months ago, and this is what we get. There's always that.
And on the folder one day, oh my gosh, look at what we were going to do.
I feel like going, Jared's got a mole in DC.
I actually don't. I just know how the business works. I've been planning though DC always planned further ahead than Marvel. Marvel was always seat of your pants. When you fire that many people, all your planning goes out the window.
Oh yeah.
It just does. Anybody who's worked in any company knows that.
I kind of laugh. There's some things I know about, but I don't follow, and I just don't care if that makes any sense. I'm more into back issues and stuff. What's going on now? I'm sure you guys have heard me. I'll pop on Bleeding Cool for 5 minutes, and it pisses me off. And I'm like, no, don't do this, man. But hearing stuff like this Fortnite stuff's awesome. I'm kind of proud of this. I'm not going to lie. I'm responsible for him spending $200 at Ollie's. Now, you don't understand. If he has spent $200 on those comics at Ollie's, this man has walked away with, a
stack of books.
I mean, he was already walking out like this and having somebody guiding him. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's a good deal. So I hope he got a lot of great stuff. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
Show us the size of the wheelbarrow, 62 Lefty Blues.
There we go. All right. So I found a few things cool. There was a vintage toy show, and I was telling Jared beforehand, even though I had the bronchitis last week and it was coming around the weekend, news got back to me that Heroes Con was canceled. The 2 huge flea markets around here were canceled. So I'm like, there's my summer blown right there, for the big stuff. So I went to this little toy vintage show that I was actually supposed to set up at. And it ended up being really cool. The guy on the phone that runs it was telling me it's supposed to be just toys. I want it to be a toy show. They had a lot of people selling some really good stuff out there. And I got a stack of old Kirby demons and stuff like that. But I sort of got a kick out of this. I got some Howard magazines with Mike Gold. It's Bill Mantlo, not Steve Gerber. And whatever,
I bought those as they came out, and they're still on my shelf. I don't think I've looked at them in 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I haven't even looked at the covers in 30 years. So it's like new, even though they're one room over. It's like I haven't seen them in so long.
Now, these were fought over in the house by the uncle and step that I talked about. It was the years, but I've got some E-Man that I have vague memories of as a kid.
Another one I bought off the stands too. The first comics E-Man.
Yeah, Electron, and it's all based on Einstein's theory of E equals MC squared, where they even have Einstein as the host.
Joe Staten drew those, right?
Yeah, yep. Joe Staten did these. And, of course, this is in the 80s from First Comics. This bounced from publisher to publisher, and they just had to take on the X-Men. They turned his girlfriend His girlfriend, it's supposed to be the Dark Phoenix, but he named her something like the Albatross or something. I don't know. You know.
It's amazing. You keep buying books that are on my shelf, but I haven't looked at in 30 years.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of Nexus. I grabbed the wrong books. This is the space opera, the 100th issue that took 2 years to come out and 2 years for 3 issues to come out.
I just decided I'm going to reread all of Nexus because once again, I haven't read that one. Since at least the early 90s, I think I read, because once again, that was another one I was buying as it was coming out. All the issues are still on my shelf. I've been looking at them for the last 20 years saying I should reread that. But I'm like, you know what? That's going to be the next series I reread is Nexus. I'm actually going to do it.
But these are like brand new. These were 25 cents a piece. That's what I was trying to get across. 25 cents a piece. And they're like brand new 35-year-old books, you know.
Yeah.
I also got Grimjack, and I got some John Sable or whatever. Finally,
Freelance.
But anyway, you know, we got Big Kirby. We got like these Marvel Tales, Marvel collectors from the '60s.
Wow.
Some Mr. Miracle. I got great deals.
Yeah, you got a lot of good stuff at that show.
You know, stuff like first issue, you know, some Silver Age stuff, some Thors, you know.
Wow.
I can go on. I got some, then like we even got like the Kingpin debuting in Daredevil there. Now, my whole point of this is I've been saying, I'm on this channel, I've been saying for years, the comic book hobby is going to be fine. There's so many back issues out there. And what I'm finding is this is one of the few times I can actually say I've seen it with my own eyes. The back issue thing is like huge right now because I actually ran into people. We were in the boxes digging. Everybody was sort of talking. Mm-hmm. People who don't watch YouTube. You know what I mean? There's people there looking for their war comics, their Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos. I mean, they were getting niche stuff that they have no idea of what's being talked about on YouTube, the speculating and all that stuff.
Yeah. Chuck Rosansky in his newsletter is saying Mile High Comics has been on fire.
Back issues.
He can't keep up with the raises in prices. He's like, I know I'm selling stuff too cheap now because prices are, and I imagine there's two different things going on. I imagine there's the high end sort of collectors have been going crazy for various reasons. And I think the readers have been going crazy too, because they just want stuff to read. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like you just want some stuff to read. You're just looking for some fun stuff.
Yeah.
Guys like you out there and guys looking for a 9.8 whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I got the first appearance of Clarion the Witch Boy, which I thought I would never get. And I got a 70s comic that reprints the first story of Solomon Grundy. I'm a reader. You know?
I got 10 new comics this week. It was another big week for me. Like my pull list is going to fall off a cliff soon, though, because a lot of them, Tim loves The Hunt or The Gather. Sleepy Reader cost me $45. I was videoing Steve Rude and went to Rude's website, and that's all it took. Yeah, you got a lot of
what was he talking about? Did he get a Kickstarter from Steve Rude?
Yes.
Well, it's funny you said that because I've got the last 2 Kickstarters from Steve Rude, and I haven't opened either one of the 2 packages yet.
You got to start opening some of those. And by the way, what was it named? A sling bag. That's the. I was told that because Sleepy Reader got this. He's like, I got this little, I don't know, mini backpack or something. I don't remember getting this.
That was like,
and I'm like, I was informed those are called sling bags. They have the string that you sling over your back, and
not a sling blade, but a sling bag.
Sling bag.
Yeah, I got 3 or 4 videos I need to make to show some of these hauls and 2 Kickstarters that came in. But if you follow me on Instagram, hint, you might see some of the stuff. But I got a huge Kickstarter from Steve Rude. Scott, you said you got this one too.
I have. Yeah.
Well, that's
I haven't opened it yet.
Yeah, but you know we got You know he sends coins and old postcards.
Wow, you got the whole package there.
Well, I paid $20, and then as they met goals, he kept to it. And,
right.
Yeah. So yeah, Steve Rude's a great guy to get. I mean, I've only done 2 Kickstarters ever, and I did it right. Yeah,
Right there it is.
yeah. Here's my win box. There you go. You know.
Yeah.
But I posted them on.
You should send that box to CGC to have it slabbed.
And that's just for Steve. They'll come up with a special label where it says Steve Rude fingerprints. You know.
Yeah. They dust the box before they slab it. They dust the box and then spray it with a clear acrylic so it preserves the fingerprints on the box.
And there's going to be a kiss coffin in there somewhere too.
Let's see. The first one I got this week was issue 2 of James Stokoe's Orphan and the Five Beasts, which is more James Stokoe. This is pretty much an excuse for him to draw this Japanese or I guess it was more like a Hong Kong martial arts movie. I don't know my martial arts movies well enough to know which style of martial arts movie is this. But I think it's Hong Kong style. But it's really just an excuse for him to draw all this cool stuff. He's got the plot, the writing is it's bare bones. It's years ago, this master trained these 5 guys to save their valley. And they did, and then over the years, they took over the valleys themselves and became these 5 beasts. So now his new student has to go out and kill the 5 beasts, and it's a big it's battles. But James Stokoe's art is so imaginative and fun that I really enjoy it. So that one was very enjoyable. Like it's funny when you. I can't remember what comic I read right after I read, like I read all my comics 2 times. So it was after I read the first issue of this, the second time, I then read some other comic that was really well written. And I went, wow, there's the difference between these 2 comics. They're both good, but the second one that was really well written was well drawn and well written, not just well drawn. So it's like, wow, that really makes a difference. So I enjoy this, but I'm not going to tell you the writing's great.
Maybe he's just honing his craft. At least you know what I mean. He's honing his craft for great things.
Yeah, it's the visual writing is top notch.
Okay,
Conan Bromstar.
Thank you. I didn't want to be rude, but you talk about the OG YouTube comic book community. I talk about the first generation, me coming in at 1.5. And then going on, this guy was Constant Bromstar, were the guys that found my videos of me just showing my comics in a box so I could reference them, and they let me know that people were out here. That's wild. What's up, Bromstar? Jeez,
nice to see him here.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, the prodigal has returned.
Wow. Well, look. Yep. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah.
And then the next comic was really weird. Last week was Usagi Yojimbo 18, and this week Usagi Yojimbo 19 comes out.
I got both of those.
I saw this on my list. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I actually read, of course, I said I have a problem coming up with superlatives every month for Usagi Yojimbo. I've been reading it for 35 years now. And
I'm surprised you don't talk more about Usagi. Yeah.
There's only A and A+ issues. So it's like, what do you say? Oh, this issue was an A+. This issue was only an A. It's like,
right.
10 years later, still great.
Yeah. And even I'm loving rereading those reprints that are in color. I mean, they're like brand new to me again. And he was masterful, like right off the bat too. His early Usagis are good too.
I haven't got any of the color reprints yet. I should
really nice. But someone wrote I posted it on Sleepy Reader's tweet. Someone did a really nice review about this, said the same thing I did. How do you keep coming up with praise for Usagi Yojimbo? But this particular issue is a done-in-one, and it's a flashback to the big battle he fought when he lost his lord. And
Right.
he's been revisiting some of that every now. And the reviewer was talking about how it's amazing the stuff he does, where he can. This is perfectly accessible to a new reader, but it also fills in some old time readers on another story from a very early Usagi days, where he was. The reason he's a Ronin was his lord was betrayed, and lost a battle and died in battle. And Usagi, after he died, Usagi Yojimbo had to cut off his lord's head and run away and bury it, so that they couldn't put his lord's head on a spike and display it.
Yeah,
And
been there. You know, shoot.
Yeah, we've known that all along. But in this particular story, they give us a new story about that, where Usagi's it's present day Usagi, and he finds out about this weird guy who lives on a mountain. He goes up to the mountain, and then we find out this weird guy who lives on a mountain was, as Usagi was running away with his head, with this guy's head in the basket, he had to face this guy, and this guy failed to kill Usagi and capture the Lord's head for his lord. So he's been living his whole life with failing his lord. So it was like, you get a glimpse into this whole other guy's life, who, was parallel to Usagi's that we never knew about, neither did Usagi. So a real interesting story, but perfectly accessible to a new reader. And for us old time readers, builds on the, I think, the reviewer was saying he tells Usagi like it's all sort of like a folk tale.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just adding a little more to the folktale. He doesn't tell it like it's a comic with continuity, because you don't need to follow all the continuity to know anything about Usagi Yojimbo. It's like a folktale where you learn a little bit more about the folktale here and there and there. But any little piece of it is good.
Yes, Scott turned me on to it. I mean, full blown. I'm like completely open that I'm like, I just never read it. And then Scott got me a book. I had to read it. And I totally get it now. But there's things about Sakayama himself that sort of like fascinates me and cracks me up. He does the authentic food from Japan. And then I read an article or saw an interview where he was sitting there saying, oh yeah, I go to Japan and visit relatives or whatever, friends or whatever, and I get to deduct it. I say it's research for my book. Now, he started out as a letterer on Gru. Is this correct?
Right.
And moved up from there back in the 80s. And he posted, I sent it to you, Scott, but I didn't know if it was real or not, but apparently Sergio Aragonis and Sakai put this out. He I don't know what it was on, Instagram or Facebook or something, but apparently there's a book coming out where it's Gru meets Tarzan. Is this real?
Yeah.
Yes, that is real.
Okay, I saw the 2016 date on the cover he's shown, and it's just getting released. There's a story.
Yeah. Thomas Yates is doing all the Tarzan-related art for the book.
Okay.
Sergio did all the Gru art. Sergio finished way before Tom did.
Sergio finished 10 minutes before they decided to do the book, I bet.
Probably. But from what I understand, not only were they waiting on Tom to finish his art, but then they were also waiting on Dark Horse to fit it into the printing schedule.
Just because Brom starts here and he might have missed it and stuff, but we're Kirby guys, and that's my stack of Kirby's I got over the weekend for hustle. Clarion the Witch Forest.
15 cents for all those?
I'm very happy. I'll just put it that way.
Right.
Did you see the way he flipped through those books? They're not 9/8 anymore. I can't believe that.
They're loved. I'd rather have a loved book than a number. It's not just a number to me. It's got a name, So
Sleepy Readers here. I was just mentioning that review of Usagi Yojimbo I posted on your Twitter. That guy did a really nice review.
Yeah, and I hear in Canada they do have. Whoa, wait a minute, where'd it go? Yeah, I hear in Canada there's a lot of this head on spikes going on. I'm just saying.
Canada.
Yeah, in Connecticut, you get 5 cents for each one you turn in.
Okay. So
got some more
for
Grendel.
99 cents on eBay, I found this along with some Mage books. But these are the Grendel stories that were backups in Mage, I guess, in the 80s, Devil in the Deed.
No. That's the sequel.
This is the sequel.
Right. Okay. Devil by the Deed is the original one.
There we go. Yeah, I'm noticing that Matt Wagner, who does all this, am I getting the name right? Apparently reads a lot of Shakespeare because he pulls a lot of his comic book titles come from, I don't know, maybe Macbeth or Hamlet or something. I recognize them just because of high school. You know what I'm saying? But I think it's pretty cool. But this book is one of the most stylized, beautiful things I've ever seen that I feel like I should send this person more than the 99 cents I paid. You know, people have pushed Grendel on me for years. I've got a stack, even the Kamiko ones. I just don't get it. But this was just a feast for the eyes.
Well, you got the Matt Wagner Grendel stuff is the best Grendel stuff. The drawn stuff, the stuff he drew himself.
Is that
what always struck me funny about Grendel is the first Grendel story he died in.
Yeah.
You know, we've had Grendel stories for the last, 35 years. And what other character died in his first story? And then we have stories about him for 35 years.
I've read Grendel in bits and pieces since the 90s when they had the Batman Grendel books coming out.
Right.
I love those. I love
good stuff.
Those were awesome. And then anything I read after that, an issue here, an issue there, never measured up. And I could tell there was a continuity and a history and a cult. I even read one book where they say they take the Grendel children out of the women in the future and sew them into the men to gestate. And I'm just sitting here like, the hell am I doing? I'm like, what? That may have been what took me out. You know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, okay, you know.
The Hunter Rose Grendel stuff that Matt Wagner drew himself is my favorite. It's kind of the easiest to grasp. You know, the Paolo loves the Grendel as meme stuff, but that's a little more complicated. We were just talking about that last week when I got the new issue of Grendel.
Okay. I'll go ahead. I just went out of turn. Guys, I'm going to let everybody know I've had my second COVID shot today, and it's messing with me. Just going to say.
Like I said, I had my second COVID shot this week, and it messed with me the day after. But Howler Mouse had his earlier in the day than me, so it may start messing with him soon. Post Americana number 4, this is, or 3 or 4. What is this? 5. Beautiful Steve Scroce art. This issue really took a turn for the weird because it's once again another post-apocalyptic story. And the original story started out where there's this mountain, like, you know, whatever that mountain is in Denver that all the that's built to survive the apocalypse. Well, it survived the apocalypse and like the richest 1% was in there. So now it's 100 years later. And they got some leader who wants to go out and reconquer America from, you know, the Mad Max world. Yeah. And meanwhile, some guy from the mountain doesn't want him to do that. So he flew out to try and stop them from conquering the Mad Max world. Then all of a sudden, all sorts of crazy things happened. And now in this issue 5, that guy from the mountain and a couple of his sidekicks now from the outside world end up in this, I guess it's Disney World. It was built by essentially the Walt Disney of the future, who made all these characters and made all these monies off these characters and built this enclosed kind of Disney World thing with all these robots who were animatronic robot versions of the characters. They and they're security ones too. So they saved these guys from the Mad Max people and brought them to this world. And then their leader woman, who was Walt Disney's wife, or whatever this guy's name is, wife. We find out she's an artificial intelligence robot, and it took this crazy. It's kind of like, I'm trying to think of like a post. I can't think of one of them now, but there was a few of them, like the science fiction post-apocalyptic TV shows from the 70s, where like every week was a different adventure. sort of thing, where one week they're facing off against the sci-fi people, and the next week they're facing off against the ape people, and the next week they're facing off against the robot people. It kind of took a turn like that for this issue. It wasn't as gross this issue because there was robots involved, but I'm sure there's more grossness coming. But it really had a funny feeling. Like I said, it took a complete turn from the other issues, which were human beings killing each other. Now we've got robots involved, and it took a sci-fi turn. So it was an interesting issue, I must say.
Are you guys interested? Well, I would have got this Geiger because it's Gary Frank. But real quick, do you want to hear the post-apocalypse story I wanted to do years ago?
Well, sure.
I based the post-apocalyptic world and the characters all on punk rockers, and I had them. Oh wait, and I had it to where in my mind, who started punk? That's the king, and then as everybody who came out after. So you had an Iggy Pop like character running the wasteland, and his generals and lieutenants and thugs were the Ramones, and it just goes down from there. Let me talk. Bromstar here says every damn book he loves is like looking to a mirror. Bromstar, when we did the first comic book roundtable shows, we were the first ones to do it. It was really weird because like everybody would have their books. We never talked beforehand, and in more times than I can count, Bromstar and I would like be holding up the same book at the same time. During the show.
That reminds me, I haven't put Geiger on my pull list yet, but I ordered the second issue. I was like, I'll give it another issue. That and Silver Coin, I think it was. I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to put them on my pull list, but I'll give them both the second issue. And speaking of, if you want to put up Sleepy Reader's comment, this is his favorite post-apocalyptic book right now, Resonant.
Okay, hold on here. This one?
Yes.
There we go.
Which is really a different type of post-apocalyptic book. It's got some interesting art where we got our second artist on the arc here. But what I find so weird about this is that they broke it up into two stories. And like the very first issue was about post-apocalyptic world where it's called Resonant because these little bugs here, there's somehow this wave that comes over the earth. They don't know what it is, but these little bugs make a noise, and this wave comes over the earth that makes everyone into this id monster who just want to kill each other. And then the buzzing stops, and everything's back to normal. That's where we came in with issue 1. So we had this father and his 3 kids living in a cabin in the woods, trying to stay away from people. And one of the kids is sick and needs medicine. And they're all like under 12. One of the kids, the girl, is missing a leg and she's on crutches. And then they've got one other kid, a boy who's healthy. And like in the first issue, the father heads off to get medicine. And ever since then, we've had 2 parallel stories of the father and the kid. And it's like they haven't met up again. We're on issue 9. And I was like, I just find it so funny that they split up the father from his kids in issue 1. And we haven't seen the father with his kid. We have got the father's story. He is out there trying to get back to his kids, I guess. But he immediately, they sailed him to some island far away. And his kids have been in the cabin as, menace comes to them. So I just find it's a really funny story, and it's like structured like no other story I've read. It's how the Lord of the Rings was like 2 parallel, was really 6 novels. It was 2 parallel stories. That's kind of what's going on here, only in a comic book with a father and his children. So it's kind of different.
I'm trying to think. Tom Bombadil never had his day. That's all I'm saying. Anyway,
no,
every day was Bombadil's day.
He did have his day. What was the name of that book? There was a book with the epic poem about Tom Bombadil in it. I remember reading that.
There are a lot of smaller poetic books that.
Right, it was a smaller book.
About.
I don't remember the name of it, but I remember reading it back in high school. There was actually a Tom Bombadil story in it. It wasn't like the Cimmerillion or anything like Cimmerillion. There we go. I never could pronounce that as a kid.
I like where you pronounced it the first time. That was
Cimmerillion. I think that's how I used to pronounce it as a kid.
Yeah.
Sounds like something I name a horse. I don't know. You know.
Silmarillion.
It's good for a Lord of the Rings themed restaurant. Try the Silmerloin.
Silmarillion.
With the side of lambus bread.
Yeah. Bombadil sauce.
Marathon at 7 issues. Okay.
Potatoes.
That means my pull list is really going to fall off a cliff in 2 or 3 months because I've got a lot of issues a lot of stuff that's ending in like 2 issues.
Yeah. Sleepy Reader. I don't know if you were on here, but Jared plugged your Steve Rude Kickstarter video. I'll be checking it out. And then Scott and I showed our boxes and opened up a Steve Rude Kickstarter. We also have, and I'll be making a video of it. So that's cool.
And Scott has still not opened his Steve Rude Kickstarter from months ago. So Paolo told him to send it into CGC. See if they'll slab it.
He wants me to get my Kickstarter box slabbed.
Yeah.
So just to catch you up on all the Steve Rude Kickstarter news.
So as I probably said like 5 times already, I was sick with bronchitis last week, and I found out real quick that apparently when I'm sick, I don't need to be on eBay or online at all. You know what I mean? Yeah, because I've got books I bought for 99 cents. I got a fanzine that came in that I don't even remember ordering and all this stuff. But this worked out well, man, because I ended up getting all these Mage books, the complete second of the trilogy, the second story, and number 1 of the third one for $3.50.
Wow.
And the shipping was cheaper somehow. I don't know how they did it.
That's a good deal.
Yeah. So, and they're like brand new. So I'm really digging this Kevin Matchstick Mage stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's almost like an everyman thing. And it's one of the books. I haven't done this since Starman, but I was reading some of the first of the trilogy. It came out in the 70s, so I was kind of catching up. I got like the first 5 issues or something like that. And I had to set it down. And then I flipped through this and I had to set it down. I know it's from the 80s and it carried on to the 80s and Kevin Matchstick ages and stuff. But there's a few moments there where I had to set down because it hit a little too close to home. I'm like, I am not Kevin Matchstick. And my wife, my wife is making me the shirt. The lightning bolt shirt. I ordered it from a company. They said it was delivered and it never was delivered. I have a porch pirate. So
Graffiti used to make that design on a shirt.
And apparently every last issue of it's a trilogy. There's 3 of them. In the 80s, it was 15 issues. And then in the 90s, it went to Image, and it was 15 issues. And this is the last issue.
And it was the late 90s, too. It wasn't even like 1992. It took a long time. It was like 1998.
Yeah.
It took a long time to get that second volume out.
And the third one was even a longer time waiting.
2017 or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
But let me tell you why I stuck into Mage after reading that. I have a reprint of the first issue, but that came from Image. But what made me stick with it is it opens up and Kevin Matchsticks is just walking down the street and there's this homeless guy sitting there and he just pours his heart out. They act like they already know each other. I was like, what is this? But so that would have took me out, but I stuck around for one more page. And Kevin Matchstick goes in his apartment by himself, sits down, and goes, "What the hell was I doing talking to that guy? Why was I opening up?" He acknowledged it. All you got to do is acknowledge it, and I can. Okay, now we just got the story going. We can go now. But he was like, "What the hell am I doing talking to that dude?"
He had a spell cast on him.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, since your wife is going to give you the shirt, and I know you've got shoes like that, all you need to do now is just walk around with a baseball bat. You got it down.
Yeah,
a glowing baseball bat.
Yeah,
I have one. That's the problem. Not a glowing one, but yeah, I've got a baseball bat that was given to me when I moved to Roanoke that I still have. Right. I have a 3rd generation bat that, as men divorced, they would pass it on to their friend who got divorced.
Passing of the baton.
Yeah,
the hand down bat.
Sleepy Reader says, "Open up that sucker, Scott." I want to point out to Sleepy that I don't even think that's this Steve Rude Kickstarter, isn't it? Isn't it the one before?
One I showed earlier is actually the most recent one. I have a
Oh, it is
small
the most
one
recent.
before that.
Okay.
It's just a sketchbook. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Oh, you got the sketchbook. I got the newspaper strips that also reprints the first story, the origin, I think.
Yeah, that's the one that's in the bigger book.
I'll be making a video. But he's got another Kickstarter. They stuck this flyer in there, April 25th, live.
Yeah.
So that's another sketchbook. I have one of his sketchbooks, like from 2012 or something. He signed for me on the shelf somewhere.
Yeah, Sleepy was showing. He's got a whole bunch of them.
I found Steve Rude in a Mr. Miracle one shot in the 80s. Everybody knows it. I mean, it was all over the place.
Right.
Justice League was huge, and he drew a picture of Mr. Miracle in a box all scrunched up, and it took up the whole page, and it was perfect. I mean, and that's what made me a fan of Steve Rude. I didn't know anything about him. So yeah, that's how you got me back then. You drew something really cool, and it looked like the 60s.
If you ever want to draw like Steve Rude, look up because he's a big fan of. There's a series of books that were really, now you can find them easily. You used to not be able to find them easily, but like when I was at Marvel and I knew about them before Marvel, but everybody would recommend the Andrew Loomis books.
Yeah.
Figure Drawing for All It's Worth is the big one, and Steve Rude is you can. Once you see Andrew Loomis's drawing, you can say, "Oh, I know it's Steve. I know who influenced Steve Rude."
Yeah, Loomis.
So look up Andrew Loomis book. Loomis. Was that Scott?
Both Kaluta and Vess are big fans of Loomis.
Yeah, everybody was. I mean, in the early '90s, when I was first at Marvel, it's like everybody recommended the Loomis books. Everybody, if you want to draw comics, get these Andrew Loomis books.
It's kind of like a standard for a lot of good artists.
But they were all out of print then. In like 1990, 1991, my friend Ed and I used to walk all over Manhattan, going in used bookstores looking for Andrew Loomis books, and they were like $50 a pop. Now you can get PDFs of them.
I wish people could see what Ed looks like. You know what I mean? I wish they could. I know. Yeah, I've met Ed on a Zoom meeting. I'm having a bigger kick out of knowing what he looks like.
Yeah, they were kind of like Blackwing pencils, where all the artists were after them when they were out of production.
Yeah.
And when you found one, you paid a premium for it.
Right, and everybody, but Steve Rude is probably the most Andrew Loomis like of any comic book. Well, actually,
I'd say so.
What's his name? The painter, Alex Ross, is fairly Andrew Loomis like. But there was another. I can't remember his name. There was an illustrator, a teacher too, in the 50s who Alex Ross was already very influenced by. I can't remember his name, but. Somebody who's more knowledgeable about illustration than me could tell you that. I can't remember who it is though, but there is. He kind of fell out of favor. That's why people don't know him. But Alex Ross basically, got a lot of his style from this one guy.
I gotta find that now because it's gonna bug me to find out who it is.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. Some people told me about him and showed me. This is back in the 90s. So I was like, okay, I see. Let's see. The next thing I got is the latest issue of Monstrous, issue number 33.
That book will not die.
This book, it's on issue. How many books are up to issue 33 these days? Like, not many. But it has been really good lately. It is just a lot of the beginning of this book was leading up to the big war. Lefty says it was Jack Ham. See, I know Jack Ham's drawing, but I don't know his watercolor work.
Are you thinking about J.C. Landecker?
No, it wasn't Leyendecker.
Okay.
It was a specific because Leyendecker was there's sort of some Leyendecker in it, but Leyendecker was oil. This guy, specifically the watercolor technique.
Watercolorist. Okay.
Right. Jack Ham, I don't know. Jack Ham, I know his drawing technique, but I don't know his. I don't think it was Jack Ham, but I'm not 100% sure. But Monstrous has been really good lately because, like I said, a lot of the series was building up to the war, and then once the war started, just crazy things have been happening. So, and it's still. This might be. When did this start? Like 2014 or something like that. It's one of the longest.
It feels like it's been around forever. That's the
thing.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Like I said, I have so few comics up to issue 33 that it's like, wow. I think I had one like last week or the week before that was up to issue 18, and I was like, wow, issue 18. That's forever with these things.
I'm impressed with the 15 issues of Mage per story. I mean, that's where I'm at now. Seriously, I'm being serious.
But that was back in those days. 15 issues wasn't a lot for a series. Now it is. 45 issues of a series is a lot.
Yeah. I remember feeling like I was given a big commitment when I was 10 years old and I hung in for 12 issues of Secret Wars. I feel like they owed me something, But anyway, 10 years to, a 10-year-old, 11-year-old is a long damn time, I'm glad Bromstar's here again because of what I'm about to say here, but he might remember the conversations that people were having back in the day on here about, people just get comics. Some part of it's nostalgia, and I'd always say no. And I showed you guys the Dragon magazine a couple weeks ago, and I said it's the role-playing stuff that takes me to the 80s. Where I found my kryptonite when it comes to hustling at these places. All you got to do is look at me and say, you tell me how much you want to pay. I found out that messes me up. But this looks brand new.
Wow.
This will be the one of the few times I do solo here. This thing looks brand new. This took me back. I'm 12 years old again. Even the books in here and everything that's in here are brand new and glossy, untouched. It just doesn't have the dice, but I still have my dice from 1988, to go with it. So I got a good deal on that. That took me back. Yeah. The ones I have no idea what happened to my set that I had. But I had it check marked, penciled, circled, highlighted, rolled up. I mean, yeah. I think I
had the basic set, but I never played it, and I got rid of it at some time.
Yeah, I had the basic set too, and then just kind of ignored it when I got the advanced, if you will. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like I get a second chance to take care of it now, compared to the other one that I just went through.
Did you know about the Champions role-playing game, which was the OG of all the superhero RPGs?
Never played it, and I remember seeing a book. One of my buddies who we did the role-playing game had GURP, Champions. I saw I've got I used to have the cartoon, the one where you role-played as a cartoon.
Yeah, Toon. Yeah, I've actually played that game. It's fun.
It was advanced D&D all the way, and then White Wolf in the 90s. I didn't really get to dabble too much. Nobody would play them.
Later on, I think like the third edition or so, the Hero Games that did Champions, they got George Perez to do a cover for them.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Put up 62 Lefty Blues. That's right under that for a second when he said Ross discovered the work of other artists like I'm pretty sure he did, but there's one specific. I can't even remember who told me when the Marvel's Alex Ross pages came in no one knew what Marvel's was. It wasn't printed yet, and they came into the bullpen, and I think they were in the stat room. I think they had to make copies of them for some reason. I don't know. I didn't know they can make in the stat room, and the guys in the stat room were like, "Wow, you guys!" So it was like everybody was making a pilgrimage to the stat room to see these new Alex Ross pages because nobody had ever seen anything like them before. These kind of fully painted, hyper-realistic pages. And one of the guys there, I can't remember who it is, was like, "Oh, he's using so-and-so's technique." And it was a technique from the 1950s of watercolor, because that's what he used. Watercolor with photographic references to paint just the light to get these hyper-realistic. And he showed us this artist, like this illustrator whose name I can't remember. But I know it wasn't J.C. Leyendecker, but you can see the Leyendecker influence in him, too.
It was in the 50s as a watercolorist. I wonder if it was Andrew Wyeth.
No, it wasn't Wyeth. It wasn't because I'd remember him. It was a name I had never heard before.
So it's fairly obscure.
So it's fairly obscure.
I will go through a box. I got a box of watercolor artists, and stuff like that. Maybe I'll find it there.
If you see something that looks like Alex Ross, that might be that guy.
Oh my God!
We're all still 12 years old, huh?
Mentioned villains and vigilantes.
I was coming down.
That's a very obscure role-playing game.
I'm getting. Yeah, This one I want to say we're all 12 years old inside, and then bam, that's what I was going to say. This may be the one I was trying to think of. I can see it in my head. Seems like it had the one I'm thinking of. Maybe it was the Champions you're talking about, but it seems like it had a girl with angel wings. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I'll have to look it up.
There's a bunch of those. Yeah.
Let's see the next issue I got, which is almost over too. I think there's only going to 6 issues. Is Tarna.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that.
Again, I love the art in this. The art is real. Let me find you a Pretty Woman page. There you go. Nice double page spread, Pretty Woman page.
Okay.
The art in it is real nice. The visual storytelling is excellent. The plot is kind of minimal, and there's some nudity in this one too. But what's weird about it is last issue, they're she's like a protector of the galaxy or something. Right. And to me, she's kind of a Silver Surfer level character. But then, like last issue, they had her almost killed. I was like, by this giant monster, and I was like, whoa! I thought she was more powerful than a giant monster could take her out. But I guess the giant monster was pretty powerful too. And it's just kind of this fun story. But once again, the art is what carries it.
Does it say who created Tarna? Because it's like we had a conversation where we were all talking about it. Maybe it was Mobius or something, or
right.
Maybe I dreamed it. I don't know.
I don't think it did. Let's see.
I always
cover colors illustrated. But it's written by Stephanie Phillips.
Okay.
Illustrated by Al Barrienuevo. Okay. Lettered by Marshall Dillon. Cover by Christian Ward. Yeah, it does. I don't see any created by here, but someone said it was created for the movie to look like a Mobius thing.
Well, see, that's the deal. It's got a lot of the Mobius traits. I'm not going to say tropes, but it's set in the desert. It's got a wingless bird that you ride. You know what I mean?
The number and issue and price are so small you can't even read them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, basically, they got that story from Mobius's Arzak material.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's always been a thing. I just assumed for decades it was a Mobius creation. I mean, I just assumed it, and then when people pop up and say it's not, I have nothing to back it up with. You know.
But it's been a fun series. I've been enjoying it just for the art. Even though my shop never got issue 2 in, and they never would reorder it. Yeah. No, I think that's what people have said is she created just for the heavy metal movie.
Sure.
That's what I've learned from showing it off these months.
I had the heavy metal issue that they used for, or I don't know what came first, the movie poster or the heavy metal cover, but I have it. You know, the heavy metal magazine with the poster on it and stuff, right. And it's Tarna. You know.
Yeah.
Oh,
man.
You leave it out in the sun too long and it becomes tarnished.
Okay. So, what do you guys know about this?
Kabuki?
Yeah.
It's good stuff.
Is this David Mack or did he do She?
No, that's David Mack.
Right.
Billy
Yeah. I'm getting turned on to a lot of these artists thanks to Instagram where they actually post their artwork. You know what I mean? Like, they're not political. They're not doing anything. Steve Rude is fun to watch here lately. You know, he'll do live shows, him and Mike Barron, and he'll come out and, like, he'll pop up on screen while his daughter or somebody is filming him, and he'll be playing the Partridge Family or something. I'm like, cool, you know. Yes. But David Mack's been posting a lot of watercolors pretty consistently, which made me want to check out some of his stuff. Now, I just assumed it was Kabuki from the 90s. But this is issue 1 from Caliber Comics. I think I got this for 50 cents. So, you know.
That's what
I just never bought into his stuff in terms of he does a lot of not really straight comics.
I thought
like illustrations with writing.
Yeah, that he did that in Daredevil, and that arc is incomprehensible.
Thank you. I was trying to figure out a nice way to say things, but yeah, it was like watercolor Sienkiewicz that didn't work. You know,
I find it's a little too try hard for me. It's a little too hoity-toity, and I like hoity-toity. That's my genre. So I've never been able to get into it. He's a talented guy, though.
Yeah, his art style in the early Caliber stuff is more comic book oriented than more recent watercolor stuff.
Yeah. I can't remember who it was, which is sad, but in 2000 or 2001 ish at Heroes Con, I either met David Mack and his wife, or it was Bill Tucci who did a book called She. I can't remember which one I met.
They've both been there multiple times.
Yeah, maybe I met both of them. I don't know, but one of them based the character off their wife, so it was probably David Mack at the time. Yeah, that's what I got from the con when I remember talking to whichever one I met. You know, and poor Bill Tucci, because no matter what he's put out since then, everybody's going to remember him for drawing 6 fingers on a cover. You know, he's the 6-finger guy that drew 6 fingers on a cover. And I'm like, okay, all right.
Did he put out? Was it him who put out that book 6 Fingers that I got?
On the cover, the character, I think it's called She.
No.
I mean, but she's holding a sword and he has 6 fingers on one of her hands.
There's actually a book. Oh, I can't remember the name. I'm going to have to dig it out. I think it may have been Billy Tucci put it out. But I was actually looking through some comic book catalog once and read the description of the comic. And I was like, oh, my God, that's the most insane thing I've ever read. So then I went on mycomicshop.com and ordered it. And it's the story of an artist who wakes up one morning and sees he has 6 fingers on his hand. And it's like one issue. The whole book is him contemplating what it means to see 6 fingers on your hand and how it affects his life. And it was just one of the most unintentionally insane books I've ever read. Oh my God, I can't believe it may have been named 6 Fingers or something like that. But it was just like, I read the description of it. It was like, I have to get it. It was like from the 90s.
I think the only thing that really means is you've watched Princess Bride one too many times.
This is why we call the show Chaos. You know,
I'm gonna have to dig that one out because I cannot remember. I haven't thought about that book in like 5 years. I may have gotten it 10.
Well,
and like the cover is like a 6-fingered hand or something.
Well, let me tell you where you've taken me, because I want to be on YouTube tonight. I want to find this movie now, but there's an old Hammer movie. They're all old. A Hammer movie, Hammer film movie back in the day, and it was like 3 or 4 stories. And one of them has a guy like runs over an artist and chops his hand off with the tire, and the whole movie is the hand coming after him to kill him. And he even ties it up in a box and chains it up, throws it in the river, and the thing gets out and it's coming out.
Yeah, they're one of those movies that has that plot line where the hand
Trilogy of Terror
and artist. One of those movies that has that plot line where a hand ends up chasing an artist. The comic book art that was done in that movie was done by Barry Windsor-Smith.
Nice.
Nice.
3 hands. The crawling hand. And this book continues to impress me. Rain Like Hammers, number 4. There's only one more issue of this, too. But he gives you story from the inside front cover all the way to the inside back cover. He gives you story and art.
You know, it's funny.
And this one,
I like his art, but I hate that font that he uses for the logo on the front.
I think, you can't read Rain Like Hammers. That's terrible.
I think he blinded me with that last page. I wasn't ready for that.
But this story just took a crazy, crazy turn where it tied a whole bunch of threads together. Like the first issue of this, I still don't know how it's going to tie into the rest of this. But they mentioned the plot of the first issue in a news report in this issue, and the rest, these last 3 issues, takes place some way in the future. This like supervillain landed on this world city to try and rescue his daughter. And he died in the rescue. And had to transfer his consciousness into this like butler. This, I don't know if it's a robot or just a butler class of person who they're bred to be butlers. So then these last 3 issues have been him living on this world and stuff that's going on in this world. And it's just kind of like they were giving you sort of glimpses of how this world worked, and the upper class and the lower class, and this and that, and all this other stuff. And then all of a sudden, in the back half of this issue, they tied it all together. And all these threads, he was showing you. All of a sudden, he showed you how they all fit together. And I was like, whoa, that's what this person was doing. And that's what that person was doing. And that's why this person is here. And that's why that person is there. And it was this really strange epiphany moment for like the whole book. So it was a lot of fun. And it's just really, I must say, I've read some Brandon Graham stories before and kind of enjoyed them, but this is the first sort of A-level Brandon Graham stuff I've liked.
Awesome. What is this that he's talking about? Oliver Stone did a remake version? Okay.
That's the movie.
Yeah, I remember that movie where Michael Caine was the cartoonist who had a hand transplant, and the hand was from a murderer.
I saw that one. Yes. Okay, awesome. I got stuff.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how Rain Like Hammers is going to wrap up too. I have no idea how it's going to wrap up because it's like the plot has been so zany.
I bet he's wishing he had a emoji peach. So I got something for Comic Crack because Comics Experience Channel. I've never heard of that one.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, that's the first interview he's done in years.
So I'm going to show one real quick. I mean, if you talk about it, you talk about it and stuff, right? But La Raza, Comic Crack, and Sleepy Readers show, I popped in there when they were talking about Rima, the Jungle Girl.
Right.
I hold that in the Bronze Age, anything by DC was good as long as it wasn't superheroes. Okay? That's the trick with getting Bronze Age DC comics. Don't buy the superhero stuff. Get all this other stuff. They only lasted, 5, 6, 7, 8 issues. But Rima the Jungle Girl, and it really surprised Sleepy when I commented that she popped up on the Super Friends cartoon during their first season back in 73 or 4 or something.
Wow.
The artwork is beautiful in this. And I thought I had them all. So they ended up showing it to a La Raza on their show. I can't remember what their show is called. Paolo, you guys pop in there. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway. Good comics, bad packaging.
Yeah. Do they have a name for their show? I don't know
think they have a name. No.
It just pops up either La Raza, Comic Crack, or Sleepy Readers channel, and whenever they do it.
But for years, I thought I had all of these, and I see their show. Well, I'm going to dig them out, and I'm like, wait, what? So I got a little kick in the butt to get the 1 or 2 that's missing. I don't know what happened to them, but beautiful artwork. I highly recommend people getting this if you want like solid, good.
I know Rima and bought Rima way back when, because in the late 70s, I started getting the Chuck Rosansky Mile High Comics catalogs. Not that I ever ordered anything out of it, but if you sent him a quarter, he'd send you the catalog. So that's what I used to do as a kid. I used to mail off a quarter to Mile High Comics. And he used to put in there, in the Rima entry, he would guarantee you'd like it or he'd send you your money back. He's like, this is one of the most beautifully drawn comics ever. If you buy it, I guarantee you will like it. Yeah, it doesn't have a name.
Okay. We got some Rima love going on. That's the secret I'm learning about 70s DC. Yeah, I'm serious, man. Anything they did that was not superheroes is underrated.
And Sleepy Reader said it made me sad when Smith said he didn't have fun drawing. A lot of people don't have fun drawing, especially when you draw it in that sort of classical style. It's work.
That reminds me, I had met Michael Golden at Heroes Con one time because I was a big fan of the Micronauts when I was a kid.
Right.
I asked him, I said, did you enjoy Micronauts? And he said, no. Yeah. And the whole conversation's like, okay.
Let me tell you something. Renee Widstatter is his agent. And I'm telling you right now, if he sits there and gets you talking and has, you're starting to be, you'd reach a point where you're like, Mike, I got stuff to do, but he keeps talking and he's going to keep you there. All of a sudden, he's going to quit, start drawing, and Renee will walk out. Yeah.
I could tell that, in fact, he did not like drawing the Micronauts. So.
He threw me through the bus with Renee like I was bothering him.
I know.
But what year did you talk to him?
There's been several.
No, I mean, long time ago.
Early 2000s, I would guess.
Okay, he was still bad with his fans then too.
So,
He was one of these guys who resented the fact, for some reason, resented the fact that he had fans. He was not comfortable with that. So he would, I don't know what, he was the nicest guy in the world, but if you were a fan of his, he was uncomfortable with that and resented it. And when he started doing, he specifically, like in the early, when he started going to do conventions with Renee, I guess she forced him to, he actually learned to appreciate his fans. He actually had to do that because, like I said, there was something in his head where he resented his own fans. Who knows what? I'm not a psychologist.
You know this.
But now,
yeah,
he can talk. Like he'll talk with Howler Mouse, and he probably wouldn't say today that he had no fun. He didn't like the Micronaut, or he was probably even short with you when he said it. And he probably even said that just to get you not to talk to him about it.
Well, all joking aside, it was cool talking to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I play with it.
He's very good talking with his fans now, but he wasn't 20 years ago. He was not. He might have said things to make you not talk to him.
well, it's possible. Yeah.
Did you guys?
I know him because I worked with him, so I know he's a really nice guy. But that's how I know he had trouble because he'd say that. He's like,
There's a series of covers he did for Detective. He did like 4 or 5 of them.
so much good stuff.
Gorgeous, yeah. His G.I. Joe yearbook, annual number 3. That's the one that I discovered. I think that's what it was. But he drew the G.I. Joe story where the toys look like the freaking toys. You know what I mean? That's where I discovered. That's where I noticed Mike Golden. That's a better way to put it. That's where I looked to see who this guy was. But you guys know the story of the commission that he did for a fan that came out on Byrne Robotics on John Byrne's site, and John Byrne ended up giving this guy a free commission to make up for what Mike did to him.
No, I don't. What's that one?
Grain of salt here. I mean, this is an older story, but I mean, it's been around since John Byrne's site's been up. But in one of the threads, this guy was talking about Mike Golden. Somehow it came up. It made comic book news when they were actually a little bit more actual comic book news. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But anyway, the guy commissioned a piece for Mike Golden, and it was a Doctor Strange piece, and Mike Golden put him off, allegedly, put him off. And finally, he gets it back for Mike Golden, and he posts a picture of what it is of this commission piece he did. And he drew an outline of Doctor Strange giving him like a raspberry split $800 or $600.
Wow.
John Byrne stepped in because it was on his side. He said, "I want to send you a piece that's worth $600, $800. That's horrible."
Now, I used to like the Micronauts, but to me the best work he did during his run on Marvel was Avengers Annual number 10.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
Because it was the first time that I felt that a comic book story set during the night was at nighttime. Because with his style plus Armando Gil inking, there was a lot of blacks everywhere, and the coloring how it was done, it had a lot of not shadows where the lighting hits. It's like concentrated on an area, and you could tell everywhere around it was pitch black, and they had no lighting, and they made no effort to make sure that the characters were well seen. It was, this is a night scene, even better than what Frank Miller did with Daredevil or what Keith Pollard did with Spider-Man. This was a night scene. Awesome. And I think that was probably the best story he did when it comes to mood.
One of the most beautiful things I ever saw from Michael Golden was one day when he was art director at Marvel in the late 90s. I walked into his office. I don't think he was even there. I just looked over at his desk, and he had these drawings of the Avengers, like sort of like character designs. And he walked in. I was like, "Wow, these are beautiful. What are these for?" He's like, "Oh, they're having me do some character designs for the event for some Avengers cartoon." And he went, "They'll never use them." And I went, But they're some of the most beautiful drawings you've ever seen. Just like since they were character designs for cartoons, he took the existing designs and stripped them down and simplified them, and just made them into these beautiful Michael Golden drawings. And they probably don't even exist today. I wish I had made copies of them or something.
So they were similar to model sheets that Alex took.
Yeah, model sheets sort of stuff. Yeah, just beautiful. I mean, they were finished drawings.
Right.
They weren't sketches.
If I ended up having the job you had at Marvel back in the 90s, I wouldn't have lasted long. I'd be too easily distracted. I would have been stuck. I'd have been that weird guy that everybody just like, he's hovering again.
You got hovering
at it's that artwork. Yeah.
Squirrel. What?
Yeah. Oh man, it'd come time to paste something on a page, and I'd be like, "This is art. I'm not ruining it."
It was actually tough sometimes putting rubber cement on pages because you're like, I know this rubber cement's going to turn it brown.
So Paolo mentioned Daredevil, Frank Miller, and let me show this real quick because I didn't get it for the reason people think. I don't know. I think this is a key. It may or may not be, but this is where Kingpin came from Spider-Man and became an actual Daredevil villain. It really surprises me that there are people who don't know that, but I'm like, well, hell, this is 40 years ago, Tim. You know what I mean? I'm like,
you forget.
Yeah, 1981 or something, right? But so I bought this before. I bought this 3 or 4 times, and it's a little pricey book, or it has been, but when I get them cheap, I pay for what I got. There'll be like a page inside that's off the staple or something stupid.
Yeah.
I've got 2-3 books I buy over and over because of stupid stuff like that. But the reason I wanted this is the last 3 panels in this was inspired by John Byrne. John Byrne looked at Frank Miller and said, here's what you do to get out of your predicament. I think Frank Miller was having a problem trying to figure out how to get people to accept this guy's coming over with Spider-Man. Spider-Man was Spider-Man. Daredevil was still like just becoming. He's gone from a D to about a B-list character by now. You know what I mean? Yeah. So anyway, John Byrne looked at him and said, "Here's what you do: draw Kingpin normal, Romita style, and then you have him light up a cigarette and flash that light from the flame, and when it comes back, draw him your way." So the last 3 panels is Kingpin in the light, lighting that lighter. And when he comes back, he's Sin City style, a lot of shadow. And it worked. That's the 3 panels that John Byrne came up with that made people accept Kingpin as a Daredevil villain. And
I remember those 3 panels. I never heard that story before.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted the book. Everybody's into Kingpin and stuff. And I'm sitting here like, I want to see what Byrne told him,
And the next issue I've got is issue number. Once again, this one's going to 6 issues, so this summer I'll have no comics. number 4. Each issue a different artist, the same writer, the guy from Ice Cream Man, Maxwell Prince, and this issue's artist is Patrick Horvath. And this one was a bit weird. The last issue was kind of about this mime who befriends a robot and things end tragically. I really liked last issue. This one, I think it's about a clown dying, but I really can't tell what's metaphor and what's real because there's 2 parallel stories going on here. The first story, we open with a balloon floating away, and there's lots of references to it in It Floats, that sort of thing. And we find out that there's this clown here who floated. He says he floated off, and there's all this stuff in the sky with him. And then we flash back to this kid's birthday, and the kid's like, the clown just shrank and floated off with the balloon. What the hell's going on here? And his father's like, what do you mean the clown? That's stupid. And then we continue with the story of the kid and the father, and we get a glimpse of their life. And it's about, or it's his mother. It's his mother or his father? The kid and his mother, pardon me. Then there's his grandfather in it. So we're getting a glimpse of the kid and his mother and his grandfather and their life and what's going and how they're coping kind of with the world and their sort of hopes and dreams and stuff that's going on. And the rest of the story is this clown floating off into, I don't know, did he die? Is it a metaphor for something? I'm not sure. I liked it. It was an interesting story. I just don't know what it means. I really don't. Because then at the end of the story, the kid and he's with his grandfather, and his mother gave him a kite for his birthday, and the kid's out back trying to fly it, and he can't. His grandfather, and they made this whole point about his grandfather being a grump because when his grandmother died, he's never recovered from it. So there's all sorts of emotional stuff going on with the story of this family. This grandfather, of course, comes out and shows the kid how to fly a kite. Everything's nice for a moment. And then that same red balloon comes floating back to them from, his house across town. I'm like, but where's the clown? There's what was this clown doing here? So I'm not sure which voice shaved his head. I'm not sure exactly what the clown had to do with this story. You got me.
Yeah, I want to comment, and anything I say at this point is just going to come off me being a smart ass, and I don't mean that. You know what I mean?
How do you not be a smart ass, man?
Yeah, I mean, I want to play with this and stuff, but no, the tone's going to be completely wrong.
I just don't get the clown. Nothing about it was bad. I enjoyed it. I just don't get the clown part. Especially as I found what's funny is last issue, I wasn't sure because it's supposed to be like a horror comic, I think. The first two issues were at least semi-horror. And the second issue had a very sort of cartoony style. And I was like, I don't know if this is I don't know if I'm going to be able to get into a horror book that has that cartoony style. But I ended up really getting into it. And rather than being horror, it was more sort of tragic and sad. But it really made me feel something. It was well done. This one made me feel something for the family and confusion for the clown. I was just like, there was more confusion in this than I normally find comfortable in a story. So I don't know what he was trying to do with this story. Maybe but it was kind of lost on me.
Maybe the clown is chaos.
The clown can be anything. I don't know what the clown is. I don't know.
I have a Tardy book where he kept dreaming of clowns. I can't believe I forget his name. The famous French ex-anarchist detective during World War II in German-occupied France. Why am I forgetting his name?
I don't know.
Moving on. Sorry. I've completely messed it up.
I've never understood the fear of clowns.
They're unnatural. You're talking... Thanks to my job again, I've been able to explore and have people talk to me. They look unnatural. It's a human form, but it's not human. It's a weird color. They look weird in their clothes, big feet. It's just distorted human beings, like distorted monsters to people. Yeah, and that's in a nutshell. There's more to it.
But if you think about it, you also just use the same word to describe every Don Martin drawing that was ever done.
But I've just maybe I'm too practical because I've always been like, I'm pretty sure I can take a clown in a fight. I'm pretty sure I can take 99% of clowns out there in a fight. They're just not really known for being tough fighters.
It's really fascinating because I'm not talking about reading the books. I'm talking about actual people that I've had.
Yes.
But John Wayne Gacy ruined clowns.
That could be it.
Some clowns scared them when they were a kid. And I'm going to tell you, when I took my son to a few Shriners, when I took my son to a few Shriner circuses in Roanoke, there was one or two clowns that finally creeped me the hell out to where I was grabbing my son and putting him on the other side and like, thank you for the balloon. You know what I mean? I felt it.
Yeah, they might creep you out, but you can take them.
No, it was a pet. It was a pedophile. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, that's what I mean. But I'm saying if it came down to me in a fight with a clown, I'm betting on me. Well, maybe I'd bet on 32-year-old me, 54-year-old me. A little older, but still, clowns aren't known for their martial arts skills.
You could clothesline him as you're going by on the bicycle.
Yeah.
I thought you watched wrestling. Doink the Clown.
Yeah. I'll tell you,
nobody liked Doink the Clown.
Talking about stuff that creeps you out. No clown ever creeped me out half as much as the voice for the character Tina on Bob's Burgers. Her voice creeps me out like nothing else in this world.
Oh man.
All right. Gorbadal just made a haha comment telling us what the first and second issues are about. You're gonna have to tell me what this fourth issue is about, because I don't know.
Oh,
There was a lot of it references, but I don't think it was about it.
Okay, I know Melville. Yeah, I'm out of my league here. I'm following 20% of this, if I had to guess. Helena Melville's Bartleby, the Scribner.
Yeah, I don't know either of those either, but I followed the first two, no problem.
Yeah,
Tim, the French detective you talked about earlier, was that Hercule Poirot?
No. That's no. That was I can go get it over here. No,
I'm
that's
a Belgian.
Christie. This is I'll get it here in a minute. I can't believe I'm going blank on it. I've got it right here on the shelf.
It's going to drive me crazy till I'll figure out who you're talking about.
Yeah, I'll find it in a minute. But
I think I know who he means, but I don't really know. I've heard him mentioned before, but I don't think I've.
He's huge in France. Paola's going to know who it is as soon as I whip
Jerry
it out.
Lewis is huge in France. And,
Magritte. I'm big in Japan.
Magritte. But Magritte, the stories were written in the UK, I think.
Here's what's funny is that there are going to be some people that hang in there till the end to see this damn book I'm talking about. And I don't try to keep viewers that way, but it worked out. So, I always tell these little stories like, look what I found, and I got a great deal on this. Well, I'm going to tell you about a great fuck up finally. And this is the first time that I've done this same fuck up. So at this little toy vintage show, man, I've got Gary, who I was in the guard with. I'm popping up a little reunion there. I got some people from Independence. I mean, it's a little reunion here for a little bit. And I'm recovering from that damn bronchitis that I had, so I hung as long as I could. And we're all going through these books, and Scott's seen me, man. I get in there and I don't look up, and I make a stack and I shrink it. Well, we're all having a good time, and I think I find 4 or 5 issues of the first Frank Miller Daredevil.
Huh.
Okay, so I've got Gary over here saying, yeah, that's it. And I'm sitting here like, I think I have this, but this has got to be it. And then over here, I got Anderson sitting there saying, I don't think that is it, but everybody's just getting along and not worrying about it. So I buy 2 of them, okay? 2. This is 148. No, it was 158. And I'm like, how do I keep messing up? So I look it up online. What is this first Frank Miller Daredevil? It's the same damn cover, except these 2 characters are mirrored and they're in a graveyard. It's the same cover mirrored with a different setting. They look a lot alike.
Yeah.
It's a nice cover. Who drew that one? Was that still Gene Colan?
I think it's Kane and Klaus.
Okay.
Jim Shooter wrote it, though.
And
it was co-plotted by Kane and Shooter. I've never, I've only seen 3 or 4 things that Kane co-plotted. So
this is issue 3 of Radiant Black, and this has the distinction. I enjoyed it. This has the distinction of being maybe the first comic I've seen that dedicates pages to a writer trying to write. So this is him sitting at his typewriter trying to write. Yeah. I found that a really interesting storytelling technique, because there have been endless stories about writers who can't write. I mean, it's a cliche, the story about a writer who's got writer's block. But I've never seen in a comic book so many pages of a writer sitting down to write. Maybe a quarter of the book was, and look, I'm not criticizing it for it. He actually pulled it off. It worked well within the context of the story. But I was reading it going, wow, I've never seen this before. It's really rare for me to read a comic and have it with something in it that I haven't seen before. There was even 2 pages of his text at the very beginning for you to read, and then we go into him actually physically writing at the computer. So it was like, that was just kind of weird and noteworthy about this issue of Radiant Black. So, to anybody who's a fan of pages of writers trying to write, this is the issue for you. I don't know if there's any of those fans out there.
Would you guys like to see the book I was talking about? I found the detective.
Sure.
All right, I'm going to go just for a minute here. This is actually from 2000. This copy is from about 2001. A co-worker went to France. She married a dude from England. So they went to see family, and they made it over to France, and she thought of me and found a graphic novel. right? It's Nestor Burma, right?
Oh.
Yeah, see, yeah, that's what I mean. He's huge. Right. So it starts out, this is in French. The whole thing is in French. I still have not read the thing, but he's dreaming of this clown, right? See the skulls behind him? And the clown shoots him. Okay. And then by the end of the story, I don't know what was going on, but Nestor Burma ends up wearing the clown's nose.
Good pipe.
I don't know what happened, but he's in there fighting. He's got the clown nose on. And of course, there it is. In the real world, he starts wearing the clown nose. And where it's in French, I don't know what the hell happened.
Wasn't there a clown nose in issue 2 of Ha Ha like that?
I don't know. But I finally, some viewers let me know that Fantagraphics got a few Tardy books and translated them to English. And by God, I was on Amazon getting them comments later after 15 years of not knowing what the hell's going on. Still haven't found this one though. I've tried to translate this using Google and all that stuff, and I don't.
Do you remember that Steve Martin routine about French?
I don't know.
They call an egg an oof. They call it this. It's like he's got this routine where he starts going through French words. They call an egg an oof. They call it this or that. They call it. He's like, those French. It's like they have a different word for everything.
I have 36 issues of Devil Dinosaur that I have and still need to complete the run. For people that don't know, I think Devil Dinosaur ran like, what was it, 8 or 9 issues? Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
I have series like that. I have some series like that. I was doing that with Atari Force off the top of my head forever.
And the last issue I got this week was the last issue of Crimson Flower, number 4. Once again, another book that the art and visual storytelling are great on, but the story itself is just okay. It's really an excuse for Matt Lesniewski to draw, is what Matt Kint writes it, and it's this super spy story, but it's an excuse for Matt Lesniewski to draw these crazy characters and fight scenes. And they wrapped up the story pretty quickly, and it was okay, but not a story you'd write home about. But man, can you look at it and go over it and read it and reread it. Someone should start a website where you can list books you want to trade and what you were looking for. I have 9 issues of the all the people looking for keys will go there and put down all the keys. Which just reminds me, I want to check. I just put a book on my mycomicshop.com want list that I know is really obscure and they'll never get in. And I can't remember what it is. Let me see here quickly.
It's obscure. You don't even know it.
Marvel Age 111, was that it? I already have that. That's anticlimactic. Okay. I'm still looking for that Delphine number 4. That they'll never get in. They took them years to get in number 3. So you guys read anything new this week?
Well, I read something old. I went back to the pile. I read this. This is from an Italian series.
Dampier?
Dampier. See, yeah. The suicide of Aleister Crowley. When Crowley faked his suicide in Portugal, and the story features Crowley and the Portuguese poet Fernando Pessoa right here. Oops, right here. And Cthulhu.
How is it?
It's actually pretty good, very engaging. It's got some action, and it moves around a lot between the past and the present, because the main character and his friends, they have to go and do what Crowley did, and they go to the many-angled one's dimension.
Yeah, I love historical comics. I love history in general, so I love historical comics. So
That reminds me a little bit of a Dark Horse series that I don't remember the title of that was done a few years ago, but it was Charles Fort, and he also came across H.P. Lovecraft.
okay, don't know that one.
Lovecraft as a character, I think it's something that's being done a lot because
Being
his
done
man was-
yeah, he's become like the go-to. He's like, the analogy is he's like the perfect villain, for lack of a better word, for that type of story. Like Nazis are the perfect villain for pulp stories.
Has anyone been done more in the last 20 years than Tesla?
Lovecraft.
I think I've seen more Tesla
I
stuff
think
than
that,
Lovecraft.
yeah, I think there's more Tesla than Lovecraft. Although Lovecraft is not so much as a villain; it's more like people like the idea that what Lovecraft wrote about was real,
Right.
and only Lovecraft knew.
He like the wizened sage kind of thing.
Mhm.
He's the one you have to like decrypt Lovecraft stuff in order, so you can use him as a character without using him.
Yeah.
Tesla they always use as a character. So if you need like a scientist who can create you anything from 100 years ago, it was Tesla.
But see, Tesla was so eccentric in real life, he really fit the mold of the quote-unquote mad scientist. You know?
Let's see,
But
Gordon Vidal says Aleister Crowley was a nut, but he wrote interesting fiction, even though his life was somewhat a fabrication of his own making.
It very much was. Yeah, he really crafted his own image.
The evilest man in the world, right?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. He didn't write Baby Shark.
Yeah, I think that's what he called himself.
Yeah.
I think
people like to think Tesla was some kind of misunderstood genius. He had some pretty good ideas, but he also had some pretty wild ideas that just would not work, and he was not very practically minded.
Right. Well, that's what helps you make him a fictional character, his not being practically minded. You don't have him invent anything.
Yeah,
You can't have Thomas Edison invent anything because all his inventions were, made for money, and we know everything Edison did because he let us know everything Edison did, and that was what it was all about. With Tesla, woohoo!
Yeah, if Tesla had a lawyer to enforce his patents, he would have been the richest man on the planet.
Well, now that Tim's back, I have to bring up a callback to last week when Tim wasn't here because of a coincidence. Last week, Tim, we were talking about a game we used to play in the bullpen, where you'd have to think up 2 useless superpowers, and people would have to decide which one of the 2. And it's really hard thinking up useless superpowers. And the 2 we were talking about, the only 2 I remembered from last week were 2 I made up, where you have the power to shoot tennis balls out of the palms of your hands, but they only went as fast as you can throw them.
Right.
Or what was the other one? The power to jump up as high in the air as you want and land in the same spot safely. So you couldn't like leap distances. You could just go straight up and straight down.
Straight up, straight
Those
back.
are the powers. But coincidentally, in Facebook, the memories feature that you can click on, it shows you posts you made like through the years
That you don't remember making anymore.
that you don't remember making. Well, there was one from like 9 years ago where Jacob Chabot, who used to play this, he was one of the people in the bullpen who used to play this game with us, gave a call back to one of his that I didn't remember. And his 2 superpowers were you had to choose between the power to make ceiling tiles fall out of the sky and the power to make people's underwear tighter.
Everybody's got to pick that make underwear tighter.
I could use that one. I mean, I honestly have a plot in my head already. I mean, it's there. But I'll throw out the useless superpower would be to recall inconsequential trivia about comic books that nobody cares about.
We all have.
That's not a superpower. People really have that.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
But I noticed I must have picked the ceiling tile because I noticed the comment I put back was, "I will bury my enemies in a pile of ceiling tile." But it's really hard to think of useless superpowers. But I liked those two: the power to make someone's underwear tighter.
Those are pretty good. Can you imagine a time traveler going back in time and making Hitler's underwear tighter while he's making this speech?
That's what I mean. The problem is I'm picturing people would have to see you using the power and not knowing what you're doing. You're just in a crowd looking at people speaking.
They're like, who's the crazy one making gestures over there?
Get two people at once.
There was a movie that Chevy Chase was in, and I'll remember it here in a few minutes. But,
Modern Problems.
Yes, Modern Problems, where he's messing with this ballet dancer on stage.
He had telekinesis.
He was making his crotch swell up. And it was
He's sitting in the crowd. He's sitting in the crowd, and he's sitting there, and he's blowing up his jaws. And as he does that, it shows the guy in tights doing Swan Lake or something, and his crotch just gets bigger and bigger until it explodes. Yeah.
That's like if you had the ceiling tile power, you'd have to shout out like, "I'm about to bury you in ceiling tile." Otherwise, people would never know. People would be like, "What's going on?" What?
I got to make a comment on his comment there. Okay. I remember a few years ago. Well, I liked the United States better before everybody glommed onto this idea that they had to bitch about either Metallica and or George Lucas all the time.
Like I said, that's not a superpower. That's just a regular power right there.
Saint Anger, I don't know if it was around the same time, but Saint Anger, I was at the concert where people turned their back. I was there.
But here's my answer to everybody that bitches about Kirk Hammett using a wah pedal all the time in Metallica. They wrote Master of Puppets, and you didn't.
I've heard more people say, "Well, I used to like Metallica back when they were good." Then I've heard people say, "I like Metallica," which makes me believe they never liked Metallica. They just like to say
a lot about you too, as well.
Yeah.
I like Metallica. They got a bunch of great albums, but Metallica's coming up on 40 years of being around. You can't. Yeah. I had to make some peace there after Saint Anger. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I tell you what, forget Saint Anger, which is a terrible album. I agree. And listen to Hardwired to Self-Destruct.
Okay.
I've never listened to a Metallica album.
Do what?
I've never listened to a Metallica album. Not being a metal fan. Good thing this is a comic book show and not a Metallica.
I like Richard Cheese's version of Enter Sandman. Richard Cheese.
Oh god!
Look, second COVID shot, and then you saying that I'm just a man. Okay, I can't. I don't know which one to tell him to listen to. You need to listen to Master of Puppets. Master of Puppets.
Master of Puppets, Ride the Lightning.
Yeah. Oh God, Jared! Damn. First it's gathering, not hunting, and now it's I'm what the hell? You think of things. You think of things to pop up on
I'm going to blow your mind again here in a second, Tim. Jared, have you ever listened to Black Sabbath album?
No, I've never listened to a Black Sabbath.
Jesus Christ, man!
I've never been a metal fan.
I have a reel on Instagram where I used Black Sabbath. You have no excuse.
I've heard Black Sabbath. I've only heard Black Sabbath songs and like individual songs that have been played places, but never an album.
I love that reaction out there. Like, Jesus Christ!
I'm not gonna lie. I'm sorry, Jared. That was real. I can't help it. That was an emotional moment.
I can of course sing along with all their radio hits because they got played in the radio all the time. Not Iron Maiden, but Black Sabbath.
I even had a moment when I was
Never
18 where there was like 4 of us in my bed. I was getting ready to move to Baltimore. I'm 18. It's the summer after I graduate. I had an actual candle that was a skull, and the lights were out. We were smoking pot, and we were like listening to Black Sabbath like cranked up as a goodbye party. I mean, you cut me deep. You cut me deep, man.
You know what's weird? The soundtrack to my college years, from 86 to 87, 88. I didn't realize this. Not the music I played. Well, some of it was. But from 86 to 88, the soundtrack of my college years was actually rap, OG rap. There was like more people from New York City in my college listening to rap than there were metal. There was no metalheads.
Well, you need to read this comment. I'm just saying.
Evaluate this relationship.
Now, I was with rap when it was coming out, man. It was by songs. Slick Rick. I mean, some of those, OG guys. I remember seeing Sugar Hill Gang on some television show when I was 6. That was like late 70s. So I'm not saying I was into hip hop from the beginning. That's not what I'm saying. But when NWA came out and I walked into that record shop in the mall out here in the Appalachian Mountains and I heard NWA playing for the first time, that's the first time. It was a good scare, if that makes any sense. I'm like, we're not busting a move. This shit's real. You know what I mean? I was like,
but what was funny was I didn't even realize that was the soundtrack of my college years until like 10 years later, when all that music was old and they'd play, some place would be, we're going to play all the original. And I'd be singing along with it going, I know all these songs.
I listened to the Ghetto Boys on CD, on a cassette first, right? One of my buddies was playing it in his car. He just gave it to me. He's like, give it back whenever, make you a copy, whatever, right? Then I see them on MTV that weekend, on Yo MTV Raps of all things. And they had a midget in the band. I'm like, that makes it even better. Oh, listen to me. A band. I just called a hip hop group, a rap group, a band. I'm surprised somebody didn't just like get their Glock out on me there.
So do you think Grandmaster Flash is better or as a member of the Furious Five?
Furious Five.
Mind the Comics has a superpower choice for us here.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to say it was because of him that I do like the Whopper better than the Big Mac now. I'm just saying.
Name is Grandmaster Flash Gordon.
Where is the superpower comment? What am I doing here?
Oh, the last
very down the bottom. The power to make people fart loudly, or the power to project metal music into someone's brain. I think the power to project metal music is way more powerful.
Both at the same time.
You've got to understand, man, metalhead people are some of the best people and the most honest people and legit real people you're ever going to meet. They get it all out through that music.
Right.
I have known plenty of metalheads.
Yeah.
I have known some of the most metalheads there are. They're very nice. It doesn't make me like metal music.
I'm just going to let you know you've known one for years right here, and I don't know how long that's going to last. No.
Dave Sharp, who's been a longtime letterer for Marvel. We see his name in books all the time. He's a longtime metalhead. Scott Elmer, Pond Scum. You'll see his name in Marvel books too. He's one of the biggest metalheads you'll ever meet. Who else is there? Zena Zarfin might be one of the biggest. She was the one who looked at me. I've told this story before. She was an editor at Marvel. She was an editor at High Times. She's been an editor all over the place. She was an editor with me at Marvel, and she's really into the music scene. Still is. Still goes to shows all the time. Still writes about music, and still a big metalhead. And she was the one who assumed I was a metalhead.
Yeah.
And one day we were talking, and I'm like, I'm not a metalhead. And she looked at me and went, well, why do you have long hair? I was like, huh?
Yeah.
And Dave Sharp was right next to me, who's a metalhead. And he just started laughing. Now, that made no sense. She's such a metalhead, but it made no sense to her that someone with long hair would not be a metalhead.
Right.
I could see
Because
that.
that's what long hair meant to her.
I'm just sitting here realizing last night in the shower and when I was getting my head shaved, I was listening to Overkill. We're coming into thrash a little bit. And yes, Overkill, and I was listening to Testament. Love that stuff. Oh man, yeah.
Speaking of Testament, Alex Skolnick, who is their guitar player, is a really, really, really good writer. He has both a blog and a podcast.
No joke.
Alex Skolnick is a world-class writer. Yeah,
nice.
He's really good at it.
But now I'm going to check that out. But Scott, I got to ask. It was thanks to Anthrax I discovered Judge Dredd. Did you have the same experience?
Yeah, actually, and like the first time I ever saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were graphics on one of the Dave Spitz's guitars.
Yeah, a lot of these guys are comic book fans.
Yeah, they were big into the 2000 AD series.
Yeah, it was thanks to a lot of these bands. I'll never forget Joe Satriani with that riding with the when I walked in and saw John Byrne's Silver Surfer on an album cover. I was like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, it's funny they don't have the license for that cover art anymore. So the newer pressings of the album have different art on them now.
Yeah. That was a wild day walking into.
They got the license for that. Actually, somebody he knew suggested that they use that art, and they walked down to the Marvel office because the guy he knew, and got that license for like 20 years for like maybe $5,000, which is a hit. Yeah, but they don't have the license for it anymore.
I didn't really like the Scorpions till I saw them in concert, and Alice Cooper had canceled, and they did a 3-hour show to make up for it.
Yeah,
tons of respect.
You want to flip up to the comment above? With Gore Vidal telling me about the last day. Those are, I'll show the people out there who haven't seen my video. I did something crazy this week and bought movie memorabilia. This is a still from the movie.
Hold on.
Damsels in Distress.
Let me get you.
This right over here, is Greta Gerwig. Now hold on one second. I bought Greta Gerwig's jacket from this movie that she's wearing right there. First time I've ever bought Hollywood memorabilia, and I bought it on a whim.
I can't wait to see the video you make of this, the official video.
Oh, I made one. I made it on Tuesday of me showing. Matter of fact, I showed off not only this jacket, but my painted duster.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Nope, I did not have older brothers.
My director at work, we both started out at group homes in the 90s, and now he's the director. But he used to tell me the story about when he was 10, like in 1968, his brother came and got him out of bed because their mom wasn't home. And he went, "Listen to this." And it was the Rolling Stones, Sympathy for the Devil. And this is like his brother's stoned. He's 10 years old, and he's in his face making him listen to it. He goes, "You know what it's about? It's about the devil."
That's like that scene in Back to the Future where he plays Eddie Van Halen for Crispin Glover. Melts his brain. Yeah. That jacket.
All right. They like your duster, sir. Your memorabilia is a hit.
Yeah, like I said, I showed off my painted duster that people used to jump out of the way of me on the subway in New York City. As my friend said, "Well, geez, no one sees a cowboy wizard that often."
I love that idea of a cowboy wizard. That's awesome. I love that. Oh my God.
That's pretty much what it was, a cowboy wizard. I used to wear my Stetson, my duster, and it was all painted, had eyes on the front, some of it. And
I want to have
one of them had a Japanese theme on the back, and the other one had like a Mayan theme on the back. So it was
that's cool.
Very, very different. Oh, and I have to bring it back to comics, I finally ordered my copy of it's a Clyde Fans. The book by Seth, which came out first in Palookaville. This is one of my favorite comics. I love Seth's work.
Let me get you.
And this started out in the 90s as a regular size comic. And then like 10 years ago, it turned into this little book where he continued doing Clyde fans in here and doing all sorts of other stuff. And then I didn't realize it was so long ago. I think it was like the end of 2019, after 20 years or 30 years even. I can't remember, 25 years, they finally finished up the Clyde fan story and put it out in a big like 400 or 600 page hardcover. And I didn't have the money for it then, so I took it out of the library because I have all the issues and stuff already. I took it out of the library. And it's just this beautiful story. It's hard to. Clyde fans is about these two brothers reminiscing about their life, and they were like fan salesmen from like the 1930s to the 1960s up in Canada. So it's like this completely non-commercial story that most people won't be interested in, but it's absolutely one of my favorites. And finally, they're coming out with a paperback of it. Finally, I think this month. And I was like, and I always kind of wanted to get the hardcover, but I was like, what really annoyed me about the hardcover? Like I said, it's imagine this, only 400 pages. So and they decided on the front of the book, it's like a picture of a building because the town and the buildings are very important in this. And they decided to do a die cut through the hardcover of one of the windows of the building. So as you're holding this 400-page book, your fingers go through the window on the front cover. And it's just really annoying.
I think you told me about this.
Right, I did. I think I did like a year or so ago. So I ended up not buying. I kept putting off buying it, going, well, it'll get cheap because it was like a $50 book too. So I was like, it'll get cheaper on Amazon sometime. It'll get cheaper sometime. But the print run must have been so low that like a few months ago, it went out of print. And the price on it actually started rising on Amazon. And I was like, I don't want it now. I don't want to pay $80 for a $50 book.
There are an awful lot of third-party vendors on Amazon's market that will just fish for the most outrageous price they can put up there.
Right. There's a lot of stuff like that. But so I noticed that this weekend I was, looking around because I was looking at the soft cover because I'm like, do I really want the soft cover? And the soft cover is $35, so it's not cheap. And so then I'm like, I saw a copy pop up for $50 on Amazon. I was like, all right, I'll order it. It's the full price. Yeah. 5 days later, it still says, we'll let you know when it's in. I'm like, they obviously don't have a copy. So I ended up getting a copy for $10 cheaper on eBay. I was like, all right, that hasn't come yet, but I'm like, I'll put up with my fingers through the window for the hardcover copy. Because I was like, yeah, sometimes it's funny. Sometimes you wait on stuff and it gets dirt cheap. And sometimes you wait on stuff and it goes out of print and you can't afford it anymore.
I know the feeling. You need a book stand just so you can read that book so you don't have to put your finger through the cover.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to come up with some sort of proxy book holder.
All right, guys.
With like an oven mitt on.
I think it's time to round this out because number one, I haven't ate dinner, but number two, either I'm getting hormonal and menopausal and have an explosive disorder, or my COVID shot's hitting.
I want a 5-second clip of your reaction to what Jared said. Jesus Christ!
It just couldn't. That was a purely emotional reaction. I had no control. I lost control for a few minutes. I apologize for my behavior, but it was funny,
They think that any book that is out of print or scarce gives them a license to gouge. Look at Scott McCloud's Destroy Unaffordable. Oh, I haven't seen that. But I've seen it's probably not that price anymore, but the 2-volume Usagi Yojimbo set.
I have
the Fantagraphics put out, I don't know, Timothy, 10
I'm
years
lucky
ago.
I got it when I did.
People wanted like $1,000 for that.
Yep.
I'm like, really? Also, that the one that's behind me here, this Mr. X Archives, I've also seen on Amazon for like $500. Like, really? No one's going to pay $500 for that.
I can't remember if you told me that before or not, but I looked it up and I saw one for like $350 or something.
Yeah, it was like,
yeah.
Then you can find it on like eBay for like 75 or something. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Just to tell you why this is possible, I work in a building of something like 14 women, and I'm the only male.
You could get synced up with their cycles.
It's already happened.
Yeah.
But, it's an ongoing joke because people can tell. But anyway. Right. Well, guys, this was actually a fun show. I feel like doing a metal show now, man. You know, like we're going to invite Jared in, and we're all going to play our favorite metal. You know, we're going to do a whole channel of Jared's reaction to metal.
And then we go, sounds like noise to me. Yeah. Sounds like noise.
To me, it all sounds the same. I can tell you the differences between between over 20 micro genres of electronic music. But to me, every style of metal is the same thing.
There's just micro genres in doom metal. You know.
Well, here's how I'm going to bring them in. I'm not going to play "Walk This Way" by Aerosmith and Run DMC. I'm going to get them. I'm going to get them with Anthrax and Public Enemy with "Bring the Noise." Get that hip hop in there and pull them in. You know what I mean?
My friend Dave Sharp, the metalhead, used to always say, "Metalheads don't want you to like their music.
Right?
It's good that you don't like it."
That's how you get Metallica fans.
Yeah.
See, I remember people forget Headbangers Ball used to come on at like 3 or 3:30 in the afternoon before it went to Saturday. I don't care what they say. Then it was 30 minutes of Yo MTV Raps after that, and then it was He-Man. Okay, and I will never forget coming home and seeing Peace Sells Who's Buying when I got off the bus in middle school, and I was like, the world makes sense now. You know, I'm like,
that bass line is like, yes.
In my darkest hour.
Wasn't Metal Shop on like Metal Shop on MTV?
Metal Shop was a syndicated radio show.
Ah, okay. It was on like Friday nights at 11. I thought there was a MTV one.
No, it was a syndicated radio show that was like got a lot of airplay on cross country.
Yeah, there must have run an ad for it then because it was like Metal Shop, the only show with teeth.
Teeth, yeah.
Okay. All right. The only question I have is for Scott before we close out here, but
okay,
I'm going to totally mess up the title. I lost it. But did it not blow your mind when Dave Mustaine came out with the Megadeth song where the chorus is in French and he did it properly?
Yeah, it's called the Tout Le Monde.
Yeah, Le Tout Le Monde. Yeah, that was a moment in my life where I was like, smoke was coming out of my ears.
I can't remember which singer. He did a duet with another female singer of that song.
Well,
I can't remember which one it was.
Famous in Italy. It was an Italian singer.
Oh, what's her name? Scabia from. Oh God, it's going to drive me crazy.
I wish he had done it with Doro Pesh. That's all.
It was from the singer from Lacuna Coil.
Yeah. I wish he had done it with I saw Lemmy and Doro Pesh do a duet, and then the guy for Accept.
I've seen Udo from Accept.
That's it.
Do a duet with Doro Pesh.
Okay, I got to get out of this. Sorry, guys. I'm going down the whole Scott here.
I'm gonna have to go back and read the parts of this that aren't Clyde fans because there's parts of this book that are different stories. I haven't read them in years.
I think
he even made little models of the whole town.
Nice.
Commenting on Gore's comment there about Iggy Pop made a French album. For a country the size of France, it is not known for its rock music.
No. Well, that's because there's other types of music.
No, but they had most of their rock musicians used to play in French, so they didn't export. Their most famous pop rock guy from the 70s, 80s was Johnny Hallyday. And he was kind of famous internationally for 2 songs, and then he disappeared again. But a lot of people in France used to like him.
A band that sort of busted out with the rock scene and made people think it was one of the first rock bands because of perceptions online are a girl group called the Plasticines. and they got a real Runaways feel to them. You know, they've been around for a while now, but they hit big on YouTube there for a little bit for rock fans. You know, about probably like a decade ago or something. Yeah. It's like we were discovering them after they'd already been out. You know, over here.
I mean, it's just ironic that billions and billions of famous English rock bands, and how many does France have? 2.
Well, that's because you're not going to get famous in the English-speaking world singing in French. That's all that real.
No, I'm not even talking about French. Like the Scorpions, German rock.
Yeah, no, but there's very few. There's very few rock bands. I mean, if you're going to speak English as your second language, you're going to sing in English as your first language, and even then, there's not a ton of them. Like, there's not a ton of Scorpions out there.
ABBA were the first band who sang specifically in English to get to an international market.
One of my greatest defenses now, because I've always liked ABBA, I have no shame about it, is when I found out Lemmy likes ABBA.
He does.
Yeah.
Is Tim going to heaven? He's in a white room now that's looked like he's transitioning into heaven.
I might be. I feel pretty rough, man.
His video is getting fuzzy.
Yeah, I know.
He's coming back. Yeah.
I want to start singing "Le Tout le Mot" because it's just my body leaving. That's all.
Are you actually trying weed?
No.
All right, we got to let Tim go because his second shot is taking over.
That's what's happening.
All right, guys, this was a fun show. Thanks for everybody that hung in here. We actually had people hang in to the end. I'm proud of them. That was awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Later, guys.
Bye. Have a good night. Bye-bye. Miss some.